Alright guys, let me show you the problem I'm having, and then hopefully we're going to be able to get it fixed. So, I have a couple of lights on, but the ABS light and this brake wear light is what just occurred not too long ago. Started with the ABS, and then the brake wear light came on. So I decided to go ahead and replace all the brake pads and the brake wear sensors, and then when I got into the job, I discovered another problem. It appears I'm going to need an ABS wiring harness, and I could not find a video on how to replace this thing, so I'm going to see if I can make one. Let's get the car jacked up and get the wheel off. Okay, so I've got the car jacked up, got a safety stand under there too, which normally I don't even do that, but I figured since I'm making a video, I didn't want somebody giving me crap about not. Anyway, so here's what the problem is. So this is your brake pad sensors. As your pad wears down, it'll finally start touching that sensor and set that light off. So I had ordered some new sensors, and it's this right here, I believe from Pelican, and I looked out, they were only like $6 a piece or whatever. But anyway, so if you look, what happens, that wire goes from your brake pads and traces around over here and attaches to something that should be mounted right here. Well, as you can see, it's broken and dangling down here. So this whole cable going up through here and disappearing back into this thing is what we're going to replace. Now, I'm sorry, I live on the highway and it is always loud. Where this comes out at is up at the top in your frunk. So you have to remove this panel. It's just two clips here, and it will come out. And then somewhere in here, that wire comes out, and they give you a wiring kit that looks like this. So there's the plug. That's what's going to mount up here. And then this and this. There's a bracket right behind here. Oh, I almost forgot. I was going to show you the the part number. This one is for the front. And it goes by side too. You have to get, this one's for the left side, the driver's side. Pelican part, again, it was basically $167 plus shipping. And there's the part number. You can pause if you need to copy that down. Alright, so let's get this opened up. Okay, so I just removed this one little plastic clip. And that's where, I'll tell you, these tools come in really handy for that. And then these two 10mm bolts. And I was able to get this loose enough. And now you can see this is that wire. And it runs right up through here. And now I can take and wiggle it. And I can show you where it comes out up the top. It's this bundle of wires right here. Okay, so now it looks like it's taped up with some other wires. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get all this done under here and then button it back up. So I mean, at that point the car will still be drivable, and then I can take my time on the top side getting it wired in. So I think that's going to be the plan. I mean, it's not going to hurt if they're disconnected, because they're disconnected already. Oh, and I'm going to go ahead and replace my, since I have the part anyway, I'm going to go ahead and replace these two brake wear sensors. They're pretty easy. You can just take a screwdriver and pop them out, and then the wire runs through this little clip here. And same thing on the other side. It just pops in there, and it runs around here and plugs into this. So let me make a little progress under here, and we'll go from there. Okay, one other thing that I had to do, this wire was running through this little holder right here, and it mounts on this stud up here. And so I was able again to get my tool and just pry it off there. All right, so let me get these new wires ran. This that bolts right here was in fact a 10 millimeter, and so I'm going to get the new one attached and get the wires ran, and then we'll go up top. Okay, so here's where I'm at now. Replace the brake sensors, and again they're very easy. They just plug in there. It's honestly, it's harder to get the wire back in this metal clip right here than it is to get those things plugged in. Anyway, that wire runs around and comes out over here, and I've already mounted the new part, and your brake wear, they plug in on the outside of it, just slip in like that. And then this is your actual ABS, and I'm kind of guessing at which way it plugs in. Yep, plugs in like that. And then this just clips down to hold. Make sure I got that plugged in good. I'm going to use both hands here real quick. Okay, so I got my wires plugged in. It looks like at some point I may have to be replacing this, which is the actual ABS sensor, because the plug, you can see this little rubber grommet fell off of it. The end of that plug was starting to deteriorate because it's all made out of this plastic stuff. And this car is like an 03, so I mean, you know, it's going to deteriorate. But yeah, the plug for this one, it doesn't look exactly like this. I mean, you saw it earlier, but it's starting to kind of crumble. It was still holding together. The wires are attached and everything, so I think it's going to work. But that may be another project. That should be a pretty easy one. It looks like there's maybe just one bolt in here. I can't. Looks like maybe it's an Allen wrench. Anyway, got my wires attached, and just like this thing back here, there is another one on the inside in here. So anyway, I've already cut the old wire, so I'm going to get the new wire ran up top, and I will see you up there. Okay, so I pretty much got everything buttoned up under here. I put this piece back. It's a lot easier to work with than I expected. And I was going to go ahead and put my tire on, or put the wheel on with the tire on it, and let the car down. But then I started looking up here. So here's the new wire, and here is the old one. Okay, and if you remember, I cut it underneath there. But I'm not sure how far. If you see, it's taped to this other bundle of wires, and I'm not sure how far that way the tape goes. So before I put everything back together under here, I may have to open this up again so I can get the rest of that tape off. But basically the plan for right now is I'm going to take a razor blade and cut that tape and just try to unwrap it and separate those two wires. I know you guys like to see work while it's being done, but I don't have a camera stand or any way to do that. So I'm going to try to just do it step by step. But like I said, this next thing, I'm going to take a razor blade, cut that tape, and then just try to separate the old piece of this from that little bundle of wires that it's bundled with. I'm not even sure why they did it like that. It just makes it a nuisance to change out. But here we are. Okay, so here's where we're at now. I was able to get the wire free from the tape. I'm not gonna lie though, that was one of the hardest things to do, was just getting this separated from the bundle of wires that it was attached to. I did have to take the wheel well back out and cut some of the tape up under there. But anyway, I got it pulled free. So now all I gotta do is the wiring part. This may be the most intimidating thing for a lot of people. However, I own a music store and work on electric guitars, so I've done wiring for 30 plus years. I'm comfortable with that. They give you all the connectors, just these little crimp connectors and stuff. I was honestly thinking about actually soldering the wires. I still hadn't made up my mind on that. But anyway, they give you the heat shrink, and then they give you the big heat shrink to, you know, to make it one solid piece. So I did have to cut off this little tag. I had to cut that off that bundle of wire. So I'm probably going to tape that back on there because it might be needed for something later to identify a part or a wiring, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to stop for right now. And what I did do though, I did cut a piece of this wire that I'm going to have to attach this to, and I'm going to strip it and make sure that the wires in here are going to match up with those same colors. Because if they don't, then we're going to have a problem. But we'll see what happens and go from there. Okay, so here is the wire coming from the new sensor, and here is a piece of the old wire, this part right here, that we're going to attach it to. I kind of peeled it back to make sure it was going to match up, and it in fact does. So you have a brown and green, a brown and black, a solid brown, a brown and white, and a brown and blue. Thankfully, what is coming off of this wire is exactly what matches up with that. So it should just be a matter of stripping the wires back the way I want them and tying in together. The reason also they have them staggered like this is because you're not going to want those connectors right up against each other. You're going to want to, you know, have them separated out, even though you're going to have heat shrink going over them. Anyway, you want to have the wire staggered like this. So I'm probably going to cut it down a little bit, but anyway, just thought I'd mention that. Okay, we'll be back with the next part. Okay, so here's where we're at with this now. This is the new wire. This is the old wire that goes wherever it goes. Honestly, I think it runs from the front of the car to the back, and all these sensors tie in. Anyway, so here's what I decided to do. I'm assuming this is cut correctly. That's why they've got the wire staggered. So I measured and I cut this back the same amount of length. Now here's kind of an important step. The shortest wire coming off our new one, we want that to be the longest wire coming off our old one, because we want all these to be staggered. So whatever color this is, I think it's the brown and green. Brown and green. I want the brown and green coming off of this one to be the length of the very longest one here. Okay? And then the other wires, I'll cut back a little bit. My longest wire that's going to be coming off this, or I'm sorry, my shortest wire that's going to be coming off of this one will be this one, which is the longest, the brown and white. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but it will make sense once I get it put together. Also, I took one of the pieces that I had clipped off of this wire. This is an 18 gauge wire, so that's what you're going to use your wire strippers for here. To get this back, I just used a razor blade. If you have a big enough wire stripper to do this, that would be probably easier, because you have to be careful not to cut the wires as you're splitting it. Anyway, so this right here is going to be connected to one of these. So you want to strip the end to where it goes to just about the halfway point on one side, and then the other side coming in this way, you want to be the same there. You also want to remember to put your heat shrink on first, so that once you make the connection, then you can put the heat shrink over it and do it like that. So here, I'm going to get one done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so here we go. It's a little bit later on in the evening, so I was hoping the traffic would die down. So first of all, this board is nothing. It's just something where I can work on the wires on. There's screws in it that were just there. I just grabbed the board. So I've already connected my connector to the brown and green on this one. This is the shortest wire coming off the new harness. So I strip back the green and brown on this side. We're going to leave this wire the longest. I've already put my heat shrink on there. That's what's going to go over the connection. And I've already put my heat shrink on here. That's what, after we complete this whole thing, then we're going to take that piece of heat shrink and pull it up, and it's going to cover the whole thing. So you have to remember to put your heat shrink on before you actually make the connections. To make the connections, you are going to need some crimpers like this, and I'm going to get it connected and show you what we end up with. Okay, so you can see I texted the shortest wire coming off the new harness into the existing wire. That's going to be the longest wire. I made the crimp connection, and then we have our heat shrink that we can run over here and shrink that around it, and it's good to go. The next one, I'm going to find the next shortest wire, and I'm going to find the next longest wire, and I'm going to cut them to match, and then continue the same process. I hope that makes sense the way I'm explaining it. So whatever's the shortest on the new connector needs to be the longest coming off the old. That's the best I can explain it. Let's make some progress. Okay, so here's where we're at. I've got 3 wires connected. There's 5 altogether. One little reminder that I wanted to remind you about, though. Once you put your connector on the longer wire over here on this side, before you connect it, don't forget to put your piece of heat shrink, because otherwise you've got a bare connection there, and we don't want that. So I just wanted to remind you about that. We're about to wrap this up. Okay, so here's where we're at now. You can see that I've made all my connections. All of the connections are staggered so that there's not one on top of the other. Each one is individually insulated with its own heat shrink. The last step is to bring this piece of heat shrink tubing over to cover the entire thing, and we're basically done. Let's see what happens. Okay, so here we are. This is all done now. It's got the heat shrink around it. See how it, came out pretty nice. And now you just, I know you got extra wire and stuff, but Doesn't matter, you can just stuff it out of the way and then put the cover back on it. And it's going to pretty much wrap up this side. Now, it would be quite lovely if I could climb in the car and show you that my lights are out, but they're not going to be, because my left side is the same way. So, but I feel quite confident that this was done correctly, and I will, maybe if I remember, post a follow-up video and show, hey, once I do that side, lights are out. One other thing I would add, that plug on the ABS under this side, that could be a problem too. But anyway, this is done correctly. I hope this video helped some people, because I could not find one on it. And I hope I explained everything well. If you have any questions, let me know. I will try to answer them as best I can. Thanks for watching.